Welcome to Unspoken Affairs. Marriage is often painted as a picture-perfect journey filled with roses, candlelit dinners, and weekends wrapped in blissful harmony. But anyone who has walked the road of marriage knows that the reality is far more layered, far more complex. My name is Rachel Miller, and I've been married to David for almost 11 years. On the surface, we had it all. A beautiful home in Seattle, steady careers that kept us busy, friends who admired the way we seemed to complement each other. To the outside world, we looked like the kind of couple that had it figured out. But inside our marriage, a quiet shift had begun to take place. It wasn't explosive or dramatic, it was subtle, almost invisible to anyone else. It's a creeping sense of routine. It's a feeling that everything had become too predictable, too ordinary. The kind of monotony that sneaks into long-term relationships and slowly dulls the spark that once burned so brightly. Our lives ran like clockwork. Monday mornings, David left early for the office, and I would sip coffee while reviewing emails before heading to my own job. Weeknights, we rotated between cooking and takeout, then collapsed on the couch to watch a series we were half invested in, phones buzzing with work notifications. Weekends were a blur of errands, social gatherings, and the occasional date night. That felt more like checking off a box than truly connecting. It wasn't that we were unhappy, it was that we were comfortable. It's too comfortable. And comfort, as I came to realize, can be both a gift and a silent thief. One thing David and I had always promised each other was honesty. That no matter how uncomfortable or difficult the conversation, we would never keep our feelings locked away. And it was one evening at our favorite Italian restaurant that David kept that promise in a way I never saw coming. The restaurant was the same one where he had proposed to me years ago, a cozy little place, tucked away on a side street with red checkered tablecloths and soft jazz playing in the background. We sat across from each other, the flicker of a candle between us. I remember watching him stir his glass of wine absent-mindedly, his eyes darting away from mine as though he were rehearsing something in his head. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, but his hand trembled ever so slightly. "Rachel," he said, hesitating for a beat, "have you ever thought about what it would be like if we tried something completely different? Something bold?" I tilted my head, half smiling, trying to mask my confusion. "Different? Like what? A vacation? A new project?" He shook his head slowly, then looked at me with an intensity that made my chest tighten. "I've been thinking, what if I could see you the way other people see you? What if we could step outside the box we've been living in, not to replace what we have, but to remember how rare it is?" The words hung in the air like heavy smoke. My fork froze midair. I blinked at him, waiting for a punchline, but none came. My first reaction was confusion. Why would he want that? My second was fear. What would this mean for us? And yet, somewhere deep inside, there was a flicker of curiosity, because he wasn't presenting this as betrayal. He was asking for perspective, for an experience that might help us rediscover what we had buried under routine. That night at home, we talked for hours longer than we had talked in months. David explained that he loved me deeply, that his request wasn't about dissatisfaction, but about appreciation. "I don't want to wonder what else is out there," he said softly. "I just want to be reminded of how lucky I am to have you, to see you through someone else's admiration, to never forget." I whispered, almost afraid of my own words. "But what if this ruins us? What if we can't come back from it?" He squeezed my hand gently. "Then we don't do it. But if we never try, we'll always wonder. And I don't want to live with that wonder anymore. I want us to be fearless together." For days, his words replayed in my mind. At first, I resisted. I told myself this was too risky, too strange. But then another part of me thought, a part that longed to feel alive again, to break free from the monotony, wondered if maybe he was right. Maybe the fear of stepping outside our comfort zone was the very thing holding us back. Over the next few weeks, we continued the conversation. We set boundaries, rules, and assurances. We promised each other that the moment either of us felt uncomfortable, we would stop. There would be no secrecy, no deception, only openness. The day finally came when we attended a private social gathering, not the wild, reckless kind people might imagine, but a quiet, elegant event where couples came to share stories, laughter, and perspectives. The surprise was how normal it all felt. People were friendly, engaging, respectful. They weren't there to flaunt or provoke. They were there to connect. David held my hand the entire night, his grip firm and reassuring. He introduced me to people, and I noticed the way his face lit up whenever someone complimented me. Instead of feeling nervous, I felt empowered, like I was stepping into a version of myself I hadn't met in years. At one point, we met a man named Michael. He wasn't extraordinary in any flashy way, but he carried himself with quiet confidence. He wasn't pushy or imposing. He spoke to David as much as he spoke to me, making sure respect was always at the center of the interaction. That, more than anything, put me at ease. The pivotal moment of the night wasn't dramatic at all. It wasn't reckless or scandalous. It was simply the three of us sitting in a quiet lounge corner, sipping drinks and talking about life, relationships, and the choices people make. And as I laughed at something Michael said, I noticed David watching me, not with jealousy, not with fear, but with gratitude. On the drive home, he squeezed my hand and whispered, "That's all I needed. Just seeing you through another's eyes reminded me of how blessed I am." Tears filled my eyes because I realized this had never been about desire for someone else. It had always been about us, about perspective, about rediscovering the love that had been buried under years of routine in the weeks that followed. Something shifted between us. Our conversations grew deeper. Our laughter returned, richer and more spontaneous. Even the ordinary routines of life felt infused with new meaning. That night, instead of pulling us apart, became the moment that stitched us back together in ways we hadn't realized we needed. Looking back now, I realize something powerful. Marriage isn't about following a script that someone else wrote. It's about writing your own story, risks, surprises, lessons, and all. Sometimes the boldest decisions aren't the ones that break you. They're the ones that remind you why you chose each other in the first place. Our unforgettable night didn't end in regret, it ended in gratitude. Gratitude for trust, for honesty, for the courage to face the unknown together. And that is what turned a fragile moment of uncertainty into the strongest chapter of our love story. And if there's anything I've learned, it's this: love doesn't always grow stronger by staying safe. Sometimes it grows stronger by daring to step into the unknown hand in hand, with nothing but trust to guide you.